Tweed and Clyde sprang frae a hillside. Of these three rivers, only the Clyde has a great commercial destiny. A little upland stream, it flows first through moorland where human beings are few and the world belongs to black-faced sheep. At the village called Elvenfoot, it begins to gather volume from tributaries, and from there, a growing, gurgling stream, it flows like a broad band of silver through pastoral country. Near Lanark, it tumbles into a valley that in spring is glorious with the blossom of fruit trees, their blown petals spangling the surface of the stream. From that point on, the River Clyde is businesslike, flowing for miles through an industrial country of coal, steel and iron. Mines, rolling mills and foundries, the sources of Scotland's wealth. So it comes at length to the nerve centre of Scottish commerce, the city of Glasgow. A great city, largely because it is a great port, highly equipped with large and efficient harbours. Through this harbour there passes every year millions of tons of merchandise, food, raw materials, necessities, luxuries. The open sea is some 22 miles below Glasgow. There the Clyde that was a river becomes a firth, one of the world's grandest and safest natural harbours. Likewise the natural port for Scotland and a good deal of northern England as well. A lovely firth, with sea, mountains and islands making charming pictures at every turn. These 22 miles between Glasgow and the Firth of Clyde form a ship channel, made and maintained by the hands and brains of man. 200 years ago, the Clyde at Glasgow was a shallow stream, 18 inches at low tide. The merchants of Glasgow had to bring the sea to the doors of their warehouses, so they deepened the river. Glasgow made the Clyde, they say, and the Clyde made Glasgow. It is now capable of taking the largest vessels afloat. It was a battle against natural forces. It is a battle still. Up and down the channel the dredgers are always at work, the iron lips of their buckets gouging out the silt and mud and sand. The chain of buckets, driven by powerful engines, tear at the bed of the channel, lift the mud and sand by the ton and tip it down chutes into hopper barges tied alongside. Night and day they work, those dredgers, keeping the channel clear for all the ships of the world. There are special dredgers that fish for mud by means of grabs. These are used in corners and narrow places where the bucket dredgers can't operate. All the silt, taken up by dredgers of whatever kind, is emptied into the hopper barges. This material is carried in two compartments of the hopper barge. When she gets her load down to the deep water in the Firth, it's a simple matter to open the sluices and let it out to sink. Simple, but the safety of many lives depend on it. And so back again for another load. Here is one of those many ships that come to Glasgow each year. A great ship from over the Atlantic, bound for Glasgow. She swings past the Cloch Lighthouse, and as she comes, her siren calls for a pilot to guide her to harbour. The pilot office is on Gorak Pier. There are 49 pilots on the Clyde, every one a master mariner, familiar with every eddy in the ship channel, available at any hour of day or night to take charge of vessels out and in. Off Gorak, every vessel arriving is boarded by the man who will take her upstream. Off Greenock, customs officers and the port doctor come on board to see that the crew and cargo meet the regulations and can be allowed to enter the navigable channel. Everything is in order. And up the Clyde she goes. On she sails past Greenock with its steeples, smokestacks, and shipyards. Port Glasgow. The Comet, the first practical steamship of Europe, was built there, where the smoke lies heavy over an industrial town. The ship goes on, with powerful tugboats attending. On the north bank this time, Dumbarton Rock. Robert Napier, the father of Clyde shipbuilding, was born there. This is his first marine engine, built for the luggage boat Leven. It wore out 3 hulls before it was set up here as a monument. Next, at Dunglass are the first signs of overseas trade in the oil tankers moored here. Here are landed and stored millions of gallons of oil for every sort of commercial purpose. On again, and so the ship comes to Bowling, the entrance to the harbour of Glasgow. As the ship moves towards her dock, she passes the Shield Hall and Renfrew lands, rapidly being taken up for factories and other developments. On the way up, we pass the world's mightiest liner, the Queen Elizabeth. Every line symbolizes speed, dignity, and grace. A ship entering the harbour of Glasgow is sent to a berth suitable for the handling of the sort of cargo she carries. Is it coal or iron? Then she enters the Rothsay Dock. Rothsay Dock, elaborately equipped for the handling of heavy cargoes. Iron ore and scrap inwards, coal, thousands of tons of it outwards. It was the first dock in the world to have a completely electrical equipment. The railway trucks are there to take the stuff away to the steelworks. 1.5 million tons of iron ore have been discharged here, and 4 million tons of coal have been loaded in a single year. The facilities of the Rothsay Dock are continually being improved. There are cranes of all sorts, cranes with special grabs for seizing scrap, just as you would lift pebbles in your hand. Most of Scotland's loaves pass through the Meadowside granary in the form of grain, hundreds of thousands of tons of it every year. It is a monumental building with its roof more than 150 feet above the ground. It had to be built tall, for its bins and floors can hold 55,000 tons of grain at a time, a total that is turned over 7 or 8 times a year. The most modern equipment handles the wheat and Indian corn. It is sucked out of the ship's hold as a vacuum cleaner sucks dirt out of a carpet. It is carried underground along a series of conveyors moving fast, regular avalanches of wheat and corn. It is hoisted up to the top floor. It moves along the conveyors again, and finally it shoots off into its allotted bin after a journey of many hundreds of yards. And how can they tell how much each bin contains? They simply take a sounding. This is a granary thermometer, and if the temperature rises above normal, Well, they just run the grain out of the bottom of the bin, take it for a run round the building on the conveyors and hoists, and having cooled it off, run it back again. And here at last is the grain being weighed and bagged as it goes out to the mills and bakeries. Thousands of pounds of steak reach the Clyde in living form through the lairage at Merklands. It comes from Ireland and Canada mainly. The cattle can be stored in the lairage. After that it is sold by weight in the auction ring, a lively scene on busy days. The work goes on night and day, whether she carried iron ore, scrap or foot. That ship of ours has unloaded now. However, before she goes out, there is a small repair to see to. Every facility is provided for the use of shipping. 3 highly equipped graving docks, 2 of them nearly 600 feet in length, the third, number 3, nearly 900 feet in length. And now our ship is high and dry in number 3 graving dock, safely shored up. Clydeside's black squad of ship repairers won't be long in getting her ready for the sea again. Here is how they fill the docks. Number 3 can be filled in an hour and a half, but naturally it all depends on the size of the ship. That repair job is finished now. When the water inside is at the level of the water outside, they open the gate and everybody gets ready to go, taking away the shores and so on. After that, the tugs do the rest. And always there is, passing up and down the river, an endless stream of pleasure steamers, with Scots off for the day down the river with all its interest of shipping and shipbuilding to the Firth and its beautiful surroundings. Here is Dunoon, and there are scores of jolly places like it. But we sail on with the music going and all the fun of the fair. One of many happy days, Dun the Water. Work goes on. Glasgow must get back to business. That ship of ours has to load for her outward voyage. And now she lies in the shadow of the great crane at Stobcross, a monster driven by electricity capable of lifting a load of 175 tons at a time. Locomotives, built in Glasgow for India, South Africa, Egypt, China, anywhere. A heavy load and a tricky cargo, but they're like toys in the grip of the stop-cross crane. Or is she carrying coal? She certainly needs coal for her own boilers. Back to Rothsey Dock. See the trucks of coal run onto the cradle, tip over, and drop their loads into the hold. Now the blue Peter flies, the signal flag flown by a vessel about to put out to sea. Our ship has been brought in from the sea, unloaded, repaired, loaded again, coaled, and now she is ready to sail. Patrol launch with the Deputy Harbour Master. We've got to wait a little. It's a launch, one of the finest sights that can be seen on the Clyde. A maximum of responsibility in a minimum of time. The launch of the ship Canton. The christening ceremony is performed by the Honourable Miss Thalia Shaw. 15,000 tons of steel to be slipped safely into the Clyde within the space of a few seconds. Our ship is in mid-channel, outward bound. She passes through the forest of shipbuilding yards, across the mouths of docks and basins, along the frontage of miles of quays, until the industrial nerve centre that is Glasgow gives place to open country and quiet fields. She returns to the wide waters of the Firth, and so away to the ends of the world again.
As I went out on a summer evening, a-walking down by the Brumlow, 'twas there I met a wheel fat lassie, with cheeks like roses and skin like snow. Says I to her, my fair young maiden,
this is the Clyde at Glasgow, a hustling, bustling waterway given over to trade, commerce and industry. Cranes, wharves and warehouses crowd both banks of the river at Glasgow, where the Clyde becomes one of the world's great waterways. Here, ships of all sizes and nationalities load and discharge their cargoes. Tugs, small in size but stout of heart, are a familiar sight on this stretch of the river as they nose in and out of dockland, the network of quays, basins, sheds and railway sidings that make up the port of Glasgow. Puffers, too, have their place in dockland, for these dumpy little maids-of-all-work carry their cargoes right up to the shallows under the city's bridges. In dockland, even the cats go about their business with a serious, purposeful air. The dockers, with a forest of cranes to help them, handle each year, on an average, 6 million tons of goods brought from or dispatched to every quarter of the globe in ships of all sizes and classes. And the seagulls? Well, they keep an eye on things. In a port the size of Glasgow, general cargoes include practically everything, from nuts and bolts to railway engines. Upriver from the docks, the Clyde is crossed by many bridges. This is a suspension bridge for pedestrians only. And this is one of the many bridges which take the city's traffic over the river. Downstream, back in the center of the dock area, there are ferries instead of bridges. Passenger ferries nose their way from bank to bank at various points along the river. And there's always something about the shipping to catch the eye on a ferry crossing. These ferries provide on the river the kind of service that buses give on the road. They're small, they carry only a limited number of passengers, but they cross and recross almost continuously, all day long. The passenger ferries save many people a long roundabout journey, up one bank of the river, across the bridges, and down the other bank. By ferry, they just go straight across. In addition to the small passenger ferries, there are big ferries for cars and lorries. These are useful not only because they're a shortcut, but because they bypass the crowded city bridges. Occasionally, the ferries have to wait for ships to pass up or down the river, just like waiting at the traffic lights. The streets of Dockland are as bustling and traffic-laden as the Clyde itself. The horse-drawn lorry still plays its part in the transport of goods, slower perhaps than car, van or diesel lorry, but an important link nevertheless in Clydeside's haulage system. Docks mean ships, ships mean seamen, and seamen like to have a home ashore when their ship's in port. Seamen's missions, another familiar sight in Dockland, provide just such a home, where a good bed and good food can be had at reasonable prices. Everywhere in Dockland, and at all hours of the day, there's an air of busyness. The rumbling traffic on the quayside streets, the throbbing engines of the tugs on the river, the staccato din of the shipyards on the banks. But there's more to it than this. The pattern of life in Dockland is woven from many different strands. A few people have time to stand or sit and stare.
Oh, indeed, kind sir, it's the truth I tell ye. I'm a bleacher lasted.
But most people go about occupied, busy with their own affairs.
Oh, there she goes, peely heels and pointed toes. Look at her feet, she thinks she's neat, black stockings and dirty feet.
In Glasgow, shipping and learning rub shoulders, for the university is only a stone's throw away from the docks and looks down on Kelvin Grove Park, a green oasis amid the city streets and buildings. To step out of Kelvin Grove Park is to step into the workaday world of dockland. There are the workmen, on their way to or from the ships or wharves or railway sidings, the men who keep the port of Glasgow going. There is the traffic, the ceaseless stream of vans, lorries, buses, trams and private cars that rumble over the bridges from early morning until gathering dusk. And there is the river itself, strangely beautiful in the gloaming, when ships and sheds and bridges and buildings are silhouetted against the evening sky. This is the river, which not so long ago was a shallow salmon stream, and is now a great international waterway. The river which gave rise to the saying, "The Clyde made Glasgow," but Glasgow made the Clyde.
It's 7 long years since I loved a sailor. It's 7 long years since he gaed awa', and 7 times 7 I'll wait upon him and bleach my clays here on the Kelvin Hall. Noo, lassie, lassie, ye hae been faithful, and thought on him when far awa'. Twa hearts will surely be rewarded, and you'll part nae mair here on the Kelvin Hall.
is an island nation, a nation of islanders and shipbuilders. On its shores, generations of craftsmen have made great ships for the world, but nowhere in such profusion as on the River Clyde in Scotland. The estuary of the Clyde is a place for pleasure. People write songs about its green hills and lochs and islands, and they come to find peace and enjoy the scenery. Greenock is a town of the Clyde. Down these waters, Clyde-built clippers like the Cutty Sark once sailed to the China Seas. It was then too that James Watt of Greenock was working on a steam engine that would change the face of the world. Upriver, the ancient landmark of Dumbarton Rock has looked down on long ago battles. Today, a voyage up this river is a voyage into the industrial age. There are still green fields on Clydeside, but they have shrunk as the industry of the Clyde has spread. A river of shipyards. And of all shipbuilding rivers, the Clyde is the most versatile in the world. It makes every kind of ship. Cargo ships, the bread and butter traders that feed and clothe the world. Ships that cross all the waters of the globe. It's a narrow little river into which millions of tons of ship have been launched. A river which builds ships, repairs ships, and prepares for its new age when atomic-powered ships find berth on its river banks. Specialist cargo ships, ore carriers, grain carriers, refrigerator ships, newsprint carriers, tankers, automobile carriers, ships tailor-made for special cargoes. Out of this industrial river have been born the Queens, the two largest passenger vessels ever built by man. Ships in boxes built on the Clyde and dismantled to be carried overland and assembled on inland lakes. Ships for the Navy, fast and fierce ships, frigates and destroyers, carriers and submarines. Tugs, the power packs of shipping, ferries for people, ferries for cars, coasters, whalers, dredgers, weather ships, lighters, icebreakers, pilot boats, fish factory ships, cable layers, fireboats, light ships, diving bells, floating cranes. The Clyde makes them all. Shipbuilding's greatest workshop. And the passenger liners. The Clyde has given the travellers of the world its own legend of princely luxury and queenly ships. The lush flavour of long, lazy, luxurious days on voyages to the ends of the earth. The last cranes reach into the heart of a city, Glasgow, a giant born violently of the Industrial Revolution. The stuff for ships was handy here, and iron and coal and native skill built this city whose heart is tied to the sea. From foundries and forges and factories all over Scotland come the big and little things that a ship needs. But most of all, steel. It takes monstrous amounts of steel to make one ship. Each plate may weigh as much as a dozen motor cars, and the men of the Clyde will take them and move them and mold them to their desires to make ships. Here is the plating shed in a Clyde shipyard. One of the sheds along the river bank where pieces of metal begin to be turned into pieces of ship. In these sheds, the men of the Clyde form the thousands of small things to make big ships. They use machines like the mangle, for instance. Not very different from an old-fashioned clothes mangle, but it handles rather more tonnage. In a way, all work can be reduced to a simple question of moving material from one place to another. And these plates will be on the move from now on. Measuring, marking, center punching. You might call this a kind of superhuman tailoring, and the markers begin like any tailor with chalk lines. Every line counts in mapping out the future of steel. Punch dots make the marking permanent. Chalk will blow off or rub away. The dotted pattern punched in the steel will remain. Painted marks are added so that the design can be recognized at a glance. The plater's work is guided by a sheet from the drawing office, where each single plate has been planned. The biggest ship ever built takes its first shape in the small chamber of a human brain. For the architect, a ship is a number of conflicting elements that must be fused into a thing of beauty that works. A design must satisfy a list of requirements, some of them trying to contradict the others: weight, speed, capacity, economy, strength, seaworthiness. The architect makes complicated calculations for a thing which is alive. She will never be entirely still until she is no longer a ship. She must be stable, but also see kindly to roll and give with the waves and not be destroyed by them. She needs a thin and flaring bow to cut and shed the water through which she travels. Space for cargo, machinery, and men. Eyes and a brain. And an engine that will pour smoke out at the top and push water away at the back. Theory and experience dictate a pattern for a new ship, but the details will take months of trial and error and adjustment. It may take 20 men in a drawing office 9 months to put a ship on paper. It will take 1,000 men and hundreds of machines a year to turn it into steel. This plate is heavier than paper, but pencil and paper worked out its destiny as it moves into the process of becoming part of a ship. Flames burn a line through it to bring it to the shape that the draftsman willed for it. The tough steel can be sliced as easily as cheese in firm, straight lines. Where the pattern is more complicated, the profile burner takes over. Rivet holes are punched or drilled. The planing machines pare edges down to the angle they need when they come to be welded. Flanging machines exert forces on a plate which are at once brutal and loving and uncompromising. A plate between these rollers is under hundreds of tons of pressure, forcing its flat form into the slow curves and curves upon curves that fit a ship. Here in the mold loft, the shape of a ship is described by thousands of lines drawn in life size. Each of these sweeping curves is the exact size and shape of a line that could be drawn on the surface of the finished hull. Each represents a cross-section of the ship. But as he expands the architect's drawings to life size, the loftsman has to make the small adjustments that will keep the curves flowing and sweet. 3 sets of lines must meet in 3-dimensional space to define a ship's shape. The rib lines will intersect with the water lines and the bow and buttock lines. These lines predict a solid thing, a ship. This thing. A shape that will be at peace with the ocean as it is driven forward through it. Each type of ship calls for its own shape to make its job possible. A fast frigate with the slender penetration of an arrowhead. A tanker, bluff and solid, for slow speeds and big cargoes. A submarine whose entire surface is built to move underwater. If you build a toy ship and sail it in a toy ocean, you can study how a real ship may behave when its curves meet the real ocean. The test tank is a grimly serious toy. The tank can also tell how a ship of the same shape 100 times bigger will behave in a restless sea. A guide bar taken from the curves of the mold loft records the line that must now be sculptured in steel. In hot steam, soft and sagging before it cools forever into shape. Or by brute force in the cold frame bender. And everything obeying the lines first drawn on the mold loft floor. Plates cut to shape, plates curved to shape. All on the move again. To a ship, but not yet. Their first stop is the prefabrication shed. The really titanic workshops of industry. Now the flat plates find their places in great assemblies. The curving skin of a great ship used to be fastened piece by piece to the ribs in the stocks and open to the sky. In prefabrication, they are married here to the bars, forming a wave of steel. The welder is king in prefabrication. A pencil line of unbearable heat fuses steel to steel, turning a heap of plates into one continuous section of a ship. A section weighing 20 tons, 30 tons, 60 tons. From pieces of steel to pieces of ship, the end products of the sheds. Enormous pieces. Out of the sheds onto the quiet river bank. The last journey. The men who build the Clyde monsters are like other men, harder than some, tough in sinew, warm in spirit. Dwarfed by the steel giants they create, they live among ships and remain themselves.
Oh, this is the best time of the day. Oh, it's quiet.
I feel better with some dinner, mate.
Oh, it's a hot one the day, all right.
Any tea left?
Oh, I think I drunk it off. Looking at the river makes me thirsty.
It must be nice to be a loafer all the time.
What, like you mean?
Ah, don't come in. You're talking to a real worker.
Oh, where is he?
Oh, I must have welded about 1 million tons of plate this morning.
The boy's got hallucinations again. It's the sun that gets him.
Oh, look who's talking. You couldn't weld a spoon to a tea can.
Oh, is that your trade? I've not tried it.
Yeah. Go on. There's a ship to be welded.
Oh, what?
Towers of steel, the traditional system. Ribs rise in the stocks and the skin is fastened to them plate by plate. Great chunks of ship grow ready-made with prefabrication. Gigantic, but most of it is air enclosed by steel. A tanker growing from the inside outwards. Curving braces meet curving braces to form chambers of strength. Internal tanks to hold not only oil, but rigidity that will withstand pounding oceans. A cargo ship grows from the bottom up. And in other ships, all places in the great jigsaw. And as a ship's form becomes clear, the tempo of shipbuilding quickens into a great thundering symphony. The confusion is stunning, but every man knows his job as they swarm overhead, and shipbuilding reaches its crescendo of noise and movement. A ship was ready to be born. Down these greased ways, the Clyde prepares to hurl the biggest moving object made by man. For months, the crushing weight of the hull has borne down on its timber supporters. Now the timbers go. A complete thing, a ship. Motionless, waiting today to be born. The massive bulk, held clear of the earth, is now freed to lower its weight onto the grease on which she will make her first great movement. 2 teams and 2 rams batter away the last supports. They're going as synchronized minutely to match the tide and the timetable of the launch. And once they are gone, the launch must go on.
Hey, Sandy, you know the high engine's coming. Well, that's a funny-looking fella, eh? Hey, how'd you like it?
Here is a feat, both splendid and improbable. A mountain of steel that has never before moved as one will be flung downhill into a strip of water to become alive. The men who built the ship are Clydesiders, tough and cynical, but fierce in their pride. This is their ship. Her day is their day. Their hands made this moment. It is their toil that now reaches fulfillment. The last daubs of paint where the timbers stood. Now only 4 pins are holding her. Time hovers.
I named this ship
a rope to tether a live thing. The giant infant of the Clyde, floating free, feels her first curb, the first of many moorings, in the first rope that ties her to her first tug. But the men of the Clyde are not finished with her, for she is empty and powerless as she is moved to the fitting out basin. But mighty power is ready and waiting for her. Power which was fashioned by art and skill in the gleaming metal that brings a ship to life. It has been months in the making, planned and measured to match a great vessel. There are so many things she needs before she can go. Power for movement and light and heat and cold. Into the shell go plumbing, timber, pots and pans. To her crew, a ship is home, a village, a town, and she needs everything a village needs. Then the time comes, the time to go, to leave at last the hands of her creators and the place of her creation. feels her own strength. Of her own strength at last she moves. The men who build the ships have looked their last on her. The Clyde makes ships for many ports, and few of them return to the river of their birth. They are headed for other, broader horizons, oceans to cross, waters to plough, voyages to faraway names on mariners' charts. The Pacific, the Indian Ocean, Panama, Madagascar, Bombay, Peru. Nothing remains but the Clyde. The Clyde, the shipyards, the shipbuilders, and the next ship already growing by the riverside.